Hello, and welcome to my channel, Reading Little Blue Books. This is a little blue book. It happens to be Little Blue Book number 417, and it is entitled The Nature of Dreams, written by Hereward Carrington Ph.D. And his first name is spelled Hereward. Hereward. This is part 3, and we left off at the top of page 26, and we begin a new chapter entitled Insanity and Dreams. There are various interesting analogies which may be drawn between insanity and dreams. This need not alarm the reader, however, since insanity nowadays has such a wide significance that it has lost its original meaning of a raving maniac. We now no longer speak of insanity, but of insanities. And almost every human being might be said to be insane at certain moments during his otherwise normal life. These mental and emotional swervings from the normal constitute a temporary insanity, but we return to normal almost immediately. Now, in dreams, we do all sorts of fantastic and weird things, which do not surprise us in the least while we are dreaming. We perform absurd actions, but there is this interesting distinction between the two states that, whereas the dreamer does these things only in his imagination, the insane person carries them out in his daily life in action. In our dreams, we experience certain emotional changes which are not normal to us, and the same kind of changes are so very noticeable in insanity. There are profound and slight changes in the dream life, just as there are all kinds of sleep, from the slumber of complete exhaustion to light, restless sleep filled with dream imagery. The absurdity of the ideas, the apparent incoherence of the mental pictures, the unsuitableness or impropriety of conduct, which are so noticeable in dreams, are also to be observed in the case of the insane person. In both instances, the corrective influences of reflection and judgment are wanting. Just as there are happy and depressing dreams, so there are cases of mental excitement and melancholia. Painful and anxious dreams, nightmares, etc., correspond to the horrors experienced by certain insane persons or by the victims of habit-forming drugs. Hallucinations and illusions are very common in both states. That is to say, false interpretation of sense impressions. Indeed, a dream might be considered one gigantic hallucination. The egotism of the lunatic is also well illustrated in our dreams, in which we are almost invariably the certain figure and hero of the romance. In dreams we wonder at nothing. Be it ever so absurd or illogical, we accept it as fact. In like manner, the lunatic cannot see the absurdity of his own delusions, and accepts them without a question. He is unable to rid himself of his false premises and false deductions, so long as his diseased brain, which created them, remains diseased. But with returning health, these morbid pictures of the mind fade away and vanish, as do dreams upon waking. Both cases of temporary insanity and sleep represent alterations of consciousness and breaks from the normal mental life. In both instances, the normal functioning of the central self ceases for the time being, and in its place is usurped by another mind, which thinks and in some cases acts in a manner completely at variance with that of the normal individual. This other mind may of course be quite harmless, and may even represent the dreamer in a truer light than he is in waking life. It has been said that a drunken man reveals his true self, and the dreamer often discovers his own inner desires and motives, which may be checked or inhibited during waking life by the restraints put upon us by society and convention. There are, it will be seen, many interesting analogies between dreams and certain types of insanity. Let this not worry the reader, however, since the mind of a man is a complex and delicate mechanism, which is held together by our normal interests and activities. If the mental and physical health be sound, and the mind kept busily occupied with wholesome thoughts, it will remain normal, and is capable of withstanding great abuse before becoming in any way unbalanced or diseased. New chapter. How to control your dreams. Dreams take place in the subconscious mind, and over this mind we seem to have no control, yet there are various practices which enable us to control it to a considerable extent. We cannot enter into these measures now, since the student must be far advanced to follow the necessary instructions, but there are various simple measures which may be taken, enabling you to control your dreams to a certain extent, and one of these I give herewith. I may perhaps give it in the words of a lady who learned to do this herself, and in her interesting book, Studies in Dreams, she tells us how she did this in her own case. A suggestion that greatly helped me to cure morbid dreams came from an experience that is common to almost everyone. Probably we have all at some time or another realized that our dream was only a dream and not a waking reality. The idea contained in this very general experience made the point from which I succeeded in starting a successful experiment in dream control. On various occasions, long ago, when a dream of grief or terror was becoming intolerably acute, the thought flashed into my sleeping mind, "This is only a dream. If you wake, it will be over, and all will be well again." If only we could ensure the realization of this fact directly, bad dreams appeared. But that sentence doesn't make sense. Just do that again. If only we could ensure the realization of this fact directly, bad dreams appeared, they would cease. I think there's a word missing in that sentence. They would cease to have any terrors for us, for a way of escape would always be open. Therefore, I tried repeating this formula to myself from time to time during the day and on going to bed, always in the same words: "You are to dream no longer," until I suppose the suggestion that I wanted to impress upon the dream mind became more definite and more powerful than the impressions of any dream, so that when a dream of distress begins to trouble me, the oft-repeated formula is automatically suggested, and I say at once, "You know this is a dream. You shall dream no longer. You are to wake." For a time after this secret had been fully learned, this would always awaken me at once. Nowadays, this formula having been said, I do not have to wake, though I may do so, but the original fear dream always ceases. It is simply switched off, and a continuation of the dream, but without the disturbing element, takes its place and goes forward without a break. In order to make this method operative, it would be best to repeat the required formula to oneself a number of times daily, at first, and preferably aloud, always in the same words. The idea is to sufficiently impress the subconscious mind with the suggestion that it takes root, so to say, and operates during the dreaming state. This is one of the simplest methods of controlling your own dreams, and is one which every reader may try for himself. In view of the frequency of nightmares and unpleasant dreams of various descriptions, it would be well worth trying for nearly everybody. Next chapter. How to remember your dreams. Many persons will be interested in recalling their dreams, but they find it extremely difficult to do so. Dreams are elusive things, and even vivid dreams leave less of an impression upon the mind, as a rule, than ordinary waking experiences. The reason is probably partially due to the fact that the nervous system is not so deeply impressed, and also because dreams are repressed by the mental censor. One can learn to recall one's dreams, however, by certain simple processes which I may here enumerate. To begin with, the first thought and immediate occupation of the mind on awakening must be the recollection of the dream. The mind must be quietly attentive, unhurried, but watchful, as one who looks long and steadfastly into a still pond to see what is mirrored there. As it thus gazes, there will come back to it, one by one, the scenes of the late dream. Mrs. Arnold Forster, an authority on dreams, has given her own method, which she has found eminently successful in assisting her to recall her dreams. She says, "The dream should first be allowed to unroll itself very quietly backwards in a series of slowly moving pictures, starting from one end and going back slowly through scene after scene to its beginning, until the whole dream has been seen. In order to get a complete record of a long dream, this process should be followed, and then, if possible, the reverse process should be carried out, and the dream retraced from its starting point to its ending. In this way, the scenes, events, and conversations that have made up the dream story can, when the habit of recollection has been acquired, be retraced. The more you accustom yourself to recall your dreams, the easier it will become. You may not be enabled to recall anything from the first few mornings, but stick to it for a few days, say for 5 minutes upon awakening, and very soon you will find that the dreams of the previous night will begin to be recalled. You should then get into the habit of writing down at once all that you remember of the dream. This will serve to fix it in the mind. Thus, you will begin to keep a diary of your dream life, just as you may be in the habit of keeping a diary of your usual daily life. You will find that you are living 2 lives instead of 1. Much of interest will be added to your life in this way, and you will soon find that your night life is intensely interesting, just as interesting as the other. In conclusion, however, a word of warning should perhaps be given. If you are highly emotional, highly strung, imaginative, hysterical, or nervous, it would not be a good plan to undertake this process except under the wise guidance. It will make your subconscious mind too active. Who would want that? Next chapter. Emotion in dreams. Dreams of beauty, of love, and the so-called tender emotions are relatively rare. We seldom experience strong emotions in our dreams. The following dream is therefore interesting, as recorded by a woman of my acquaintance who has had some remarkable experiences during slumber. Never while I live shall I forget my first dream, friend, or my profound astonishment and still more profound delight when I discovered that my dream world was peopled, she wrote me. It revealed the possibilities of another life as full of actual incident as any on the material plane. My dream friend came to me in a country lane. I was alone. I stopped near a bend in the lane. It was half fear, half anxiety which possessed me. Then overwhelming anticipation gripped me, for I heard the sound of a footstep coming toward me. For a moment the dream wobbled, shaken by excitement. Then, gathering myself together, with a violent effort, I steadied it again. I must know what, who, was coming toward me round that bend. Calmly and steadily this step advanced. And then a human figure. The human eyes met mine with a smile that gave me the most rapturous feeling of joy I had ever experienced in my life. Perfect love, perfect understanding, perfect friendship flooded my mind. No words were needed to cement it. All the real loneliness of my life seemed suddenly lifted. I felt no fear, no restraint, such as always hampers men and women in the material plane, and when my first dream friend held out his hand to me, I eagerly placed mine in it. Then I played with his fingers, and my heart bounded with delight when I felt that they were like the fingers of a living man. I raised my eyes. "How do I know who you are?" I said. "You can see me," he answered. "But perhaps you are not real," I argued in tremulous hurry to be convinced. "Touch my face," he invited. Without the slightest hesitation, I laid my fingers on his cheek and felt the soft resistance of the flesh. He bent his head, and I ran my hand over his hair. If your dream is true, I am true," he said. "And you love me." "Yes, I love you earnestly, sincerely, more than I have ever loved a human being. I feel that I never knew what it was to love before, only it seems different. It is not the way we love on earth." "No," he said gravely, "love there is gross. The human soul there is encased in a thick veil of matter. Only once in life, down there, is a glimpse of the love here vouchsafed to mortals. And that glimpse comes when in youth a man first falls in love with a woman, and only then if his mind is pure." He laid his hand upon my brow, and at his touch I knew ecstasy of soul. I awoke, and it was dark, but a glow of great delight remained with me, illuminating the work of another day. I felt if I could ever find my dream friend in another dream, that I would attain the deepest desires of my heart. It's a little much, isn't it? Alright, next chapter. Famous historical dreams. All through the pages of sacred and profane history, dreams have played a prominent part. It is hardly necessary to remind the reader of the numerous dreams mentioned in the Bible, and the value which was attached to them in those days. Interpreters of dreams were in royal favor, and it was firmly believed that many dreams were of prophetic and divine origin. For do we not read, "In a dream, in a vision of the night, when sleep falleth upon men, and slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men, and sealeth their instruction, that they may withdraw man from his purpose, and hide pride from man." On the interpretation of the dreams of Pharaoh rested the fate of the children of Israel. Jack Poe Dante, son of the poet, who visited in a dream by his father, was convinced with and told him where to find the 13 missing cantos of the Commedia. William Harvey, the discoverer of the circulation of the blood, used to relate that his life was saved by a dream. He was prevented from going abroad a vessel which was sunk in a severe storm. Francis Bacon was warned in a dream of his father's approaching end, which occurred in a few days. Saint Cyprian, and Saint Columba each foretold the date and manner of his own death, as revealed to them in dreams. Benevento Cellini, when in prison, had frequent dreams and visions of a young man who came to him and confronted him. On one occasion, this being saved his life by preventing him from committing suicide. James IV of Scotland, after Vespers in the chapel at Lithgow, was warned in a dream against his intended expedition to England. He, however, proceeded and was warned. Some of the print has faded. Again at Jedburgh, but persisting, fell at the battle of Flodden Field. King Charles I, when resting at Navante on the eve of the battle of Naseby, twice dreamed of Lord Strafford, who warned him not to meet the parliamentary army. He did so, however, and a disastrous defeat followed. Queen Elizabeth was said to have been warned of her own death in a dream. Catherine de Medicis had a dream vision of the battle of Jormac. This is related by Margaret de Villers in her memoirs. The Emperor Trajan was saved during an earthquake by a warning received in a dream. In our own day, many men and women of letters and in the realms of science, politics, art, religion, and practical life have had similar dreams, and they are to be found scattered throughout the records of human life and history. And I think I'll stop there. And we'll see you in part 4.